The stars around you are unhurried, each one a lantern placed in an immeasurable sea. Their light reaches across centuries, touching your eyes as though no time has passed. And yet, between these points of brightness, there is darkness. It stretches wide, a canvas that seems empty, but within that stillness, something stirs. You begin to move toward it, slowly, carefully, as if following a current unseen. Ahead lies a presence, silent, invisible, but undeniably there. A black hole, not a monster as many stories have painted, but rather a well of gravity, a river that runs without sound. It waits, not hungrily, but with the patience of stone. As you approach, you notice how space itself begins to change. The stars no longer keep their fixed positions. Their light bends, curves, warps around a center you cannot yet see. The black hole does not glow, it does not reveal itself directly. Instead, it announces its existence through the world it bends. It is like listening to silence and realizing silence has shape. You feel no fear here. Instead, there is a deep stillness, as though you are entering a cathedral with no walls. The air, or what you imagine as air, is steady and cool. You recall that black holes are born from collapse, stars so massive they fall inward under their own weight, squeezing tighter and tighter until they create a horizon from which no light can return. But in this, there is not destruction, there is transformation. What once burned now curves space, teaching the cosmos how to fold. You hover at a distance, seeing the effect of gravity's art. Around the black hole is a shimmering ring of light, the accretion disk, matter drawn in, spiraling like dancers circling a silent partner. The disk glows not because the hole itself shines, but because particles crash together in their final embrace, heating until they burn bright. It is the edge of disappearance, and yet it is also one of the brightest places in the universe. Strange, you think, how the path into darkness becomes surrounded by light. Your body seems to sway in the tide of gravity, though no wind blows. Time itself changes here. You have learned that near such objects, time dilates. Moments for you stretch differently than for those far away. If someone were watching from a distance, they might see you slow, your approach frozen near the horizon. But from your perspective, you drift smoothly onward, the seconds as natural as any breath. It is a reminder time is not rigid, but woven into the fabric of space, and gravity is its loom. You let yourself imagine falling, though you are safe in this vision. The event horizon awaits, that invisible border where escape becomes impossible. It is not a wall, not a surface. It is simply the threshold where paths turn inward and all journeys converge. Crossing it is neither loud nor violent. It is quiet, the silence of inevitability. If you pass through, you would not notice the moment itself, for no marker announces it. You would simply continue, unaware that the universe outside can no longer see you. The thought is not frightening, but humbling. For so long, black holes have been symbols of fear, voids that consume everything. Yet here they appear as teachers of impermanence, showing you that boundaries can exist without edges, that endings are not always sharp. The horizon is not a cliff, but a veil, and veils can be lifted. Your mind wanders to the mysteries still hidden, what lies within, where matter and energy compress into unknowable states. Scientists speak of singularities, points of infinite density where our laws collapse. Yet, perhaps the truth is more subtle, more intricate than equations allow. You realize that in science, as in meditation, not all answers are reached through certainty. Some are held through wonder, through sitting quietly with what is unknown. The black hole whispers this lesson, that absence can be presence, that what you cannot see can still shape everything around you. Even now, you sense how galaxies rely on them. At the centers of most galaxies, including your own, lie supermassive black holes, anchors around which countless stars revolve. Without them, the dance of spiral arms would falter. Darkness, then, is not chaos. Darkness holds the pattern. You drift closer still, carried by thought. The accretion disk blazes, its arcs of light stretching across your vision, while just beyond its circle, space bends into curves that defy ordinary sight. You realize that looking near the horizon is like gazing into a mirror that has forgotten how to stay flat. Images duplicate, twist, and stretch. A single star might appear twice, once on one side and again on the other, its light having taken two different paths. Gravity here is not merely a pull, it is a sculptor, shaping even light itself into new forms. And through it all, you remain calm. This is not a place of rushing or urgency. The universe has no haste. Stars collapse over millions of years. Light bends across unimaginable distances. Time itself slows at the edge of the horizon. Everything about this space asks you to release your grip, to surrender to patience. You breathe with it, as though your chest rises and falls with the rhythm of gravity itself. The deeper you gaze, the more you notice how your own thoughts bend. Just as light curves near the horizon, so too does your awareness arc inward. The black hole becomes not only an object of science, but a metaphor of mind. Thoughts arise, spiral, and dissolve, disappearing into a quiet interior you cannot fully describe. You recognize in this mirror the same paradox. The more you release into stillness, the more radiant the edges of your awareness become. For a long time, you float here, not measuring minutes, not counting seconds, only resting in the presence of a silence so vast it cannot be captured, only felt. The darkness is not empty, it is full, saturated with the weight of all that has come before, of stars that lived and ended, of light that traveled only to curve inward and vanish. Yet you feel no loss. You feel held, as though the gravity itself offers a kind of embrace. You begin to notice, however, that not all of this journey is inward. Around the edges, just beyond the quiet veil, there are motions you cannot ignore. Streams of matter twist upward, ejected along the poles of the black hole, jets of particles propelled across galaxies. Even here, where everything seems to fall inward, some energy escapes, redirected, reborn into motion. Darkness gives rise to brightness once more. This realization stirs a gentle question within you. If even in the deepest wells of gravity, something emerges, what does that say about endings in your own life? Perhaps they are not so final. Perhaps every horizon conceals another unfolding. You linger with that thought, feeling how it softens your breathing. The black hole, once imagined as destruction, now feels like a gateway, a reminder that beyond what disappears, something continues. And as you drift, the stars around you begin to shimmer once more. Their light bends, but their presence endures, guiding your gaze outward again. You wonder if gravity can hold galaxies. What holds you? What invisible threads guide the path of your own journey, unseen but shaping every step? You turn softly toward that question, letting it open, unhurried, like the night sky itself. Last lines. And as the darkness folds around you, you begin to sense that gravity is not only a pull of stars, but also a pull within yourself, an invitation to wonder what other forces, gentle and unseen, guide the unfolding of your path into the next horizon. Chapter 2, The Weight of Stars. You lie still and above you the night breathes. The stars that dot the velvet sky may seem timeless, their light so steady, their patterns so ancient, that you forget they too are living things. Yet every star carries a story, a beginning, a middle, and an end. And though the distances between them stretch farther than your imagination can measure, each one beats with a rhythm that echoes inside you, a pulse, a weight, a life unfolding. Tonight, you imagine their weight. Stars are not feathers scattered across the universe. They are titans, immense spheres of gas pressed together by gravity so strong it lights their hearts. The smallest among them can outshine whole planets. The largest are so massive that words falter when trying to measure them. Their lives depend on this balance. Gravity pulling inward, pressure pushing outward. For billions of years, this balance holds, like breath caught between inhale and exhale. You picture one now, a star much larger than your sun. It burns brighter, bluer, hotter. Its light spills outward in waves, crossing distances so vast they will travel long after the star itself is gone. To look upon it is to see a flame stretched to cosmic scale, a fire that never wavers, even as it consumes itself. Such stars do not live with moderation. They burn quickly, furiously, in a rush of brilliance. And because they burn so fiercely, they cannot last long. The life of such a star is like a poem written in a single breath. While your sun may live for 10 billion years, these giants spend their fuel in only a few million. In the language of the cosmos, they are brief. And yet what they leave behind is not emptiness. It is transformation. You let your thoughts follow the star as it ages. Inside its core, atoms press against each other with unimaginable force. Hydrogen fuses into helium. Helium fuses into heavier elements. Carbon, oxygen, iron. Each step a heartbeat. Each fusion a note in a song. The star is an alchemist, crafting the very materials of life. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the oxygen you breathe, all once born in stars such as this. You are, in the most literal sense, a child of their fire, but the process cannot go on forever. Iron, unlike lighter elements, does not give energy when it fuses. When the star's core fills with it, the balance falters. Gravity, that quiet sculptor, begins to win. The pressure outward weakens. The walls of the star begin to fold inward, and the collapse begins. For a heartbeat, the star falls in on itself, its own immense weight crushing its core. But this collapse triggers a response so violent, so sudden, that it becomes one of the most spectacular events in the universe. A supernova. The outer layers explode outward in a wave of light and energy, brighter than the galaxy it inhabits. It is both a death and a birth, a single final blaze so powerful it can be seen across millions of light years. You imagine it now, the star collapsing, then erupting in brilliance, its outer shell cast into the void. The light from that explosion might travel for tens of thousands of years before reaching any observer, but when it does, it announces itself with clarity. Here was a star, and here is what it leaves behind. What remains at the center depends on the star's weight. Smaller stars may leave behind a neutron star, a sphere no larger than a city, but heavier than the sun. In such places, atoms are crushed until protons and electrons merge into neutrons, creating matter so dense that a teaspoon of it could outweigh mountains. But if the star is massive enough, even this outcome is not final. Gravity continues its work, relentless. The collapse does not stop at neutrons. It continues folding matter tighter and tighter until it disappears beyond a horizon of no return. From this final act, a black hole is born. And so, the weight of stars becomes the silence of darkness. But it is not an empty silence. The black hole holds the memory of its parent star, the echo of its light, the rhythm of its collapse. Every black hole is, in its quiet way, a monument to a star that once burned brilliantly. You let yourself rest in this thought, that endings can carry beginnings within them. The death of a star scatters heavy elements into space. Those elements seed clouds of K which condense into new stars, new planets, new forms of life. The iron in your blood, the carbon that shapes you, the oxygen you breathe. All of it was once scattered from such explosions. You are, quite literally, built from stardust. The phrase is not a metaphor, but a truth. You are the continuation of stars. Their heartbeat lives on in you. Their weight is the weight you carry. Their collapse is the foundation of your existence. You close your eyes and imagine drifting among such stellar remnants. The night sky becomes more intimate now. Each point of light tells a story, and behind each story lies the same rhythm of birth, burning, and collapse. Some stars will one day swell into giants and shed their outer layers gently, becoming white dwarfs. Others will die in fury, scattering light and matter in their final breath. And some will vanish into black holes, leaving only their gravity behind. And yet, even in their disappearance, they give. The light of their death travels outward, nurturing worlds it may never see. The elements they release form the seeds of galaxies yet unborn. The black holes they leave anchor cosmic structures that last for billions of years. Stars die, but their influence endures. As you think of this, you notice how it mirrors your own breath. You inhale, you exhale. With each cycle, something leaves, something arrives. The rhythm is the same: intake, release, transformation. The stars remind you that life is not held in permanence but in motion, in the exchange between what is lost and what becomes. You let this lesson settle, gentle as dust drifting through a beam of light. The universe is old, yet still alive. Its heartbeat is not measured in minutes or hours, but in the lives of stars, in the weight they bear, and the gifts they leave behind. And so you drift further into thought. You imagine yourself floating through the remains of a supernova, colors unfolding like petals. Crimson, gold, violet. Each wave of gas expands outward, carrying new seeds into space. You follow them, not with urgency, but with curiosity, as though each drifting particle carries a story it longs to tell. The rhythm of stars feels like the rhythm of a lullaby. You sense the patience of the cosmos, the slow unfolding of birth and death, of silence and flame. It is not tragic. It is not cruel. It is simply the way of things, a pattern so vast it becomes music, a song you can hear if you listen softly enough. The music lingers as you return your gaze to the black holes left behind. They seem less like voids now and more like pauses, rests in the symphony of the cosmos. They are the silence between notes, necessary for the melody to breathe. Without them, the rhythm would not hold. And so you rest here too. You breathe with the seas, you collapse with them, you blaze with them. Their weight becomes your weight, their story your story. And when you open your eyes again, you feel lighter, as though part of their burden has transformed into something you can carry with ease. Still, one question drifts gently in your mind. If stars can collapse into black holes, and from their collapse, new worlds can one day emerge, what other transformations wait unseen within the dark fabric of space? Last lines. And so you lie within the quiet echo of starlight, wondering what the universe creates in silence. What hidden structures, delicate yet immense, arise from the gravity of endings, guiding you toward the next unfolding mystery. Chapter 3. Gravity's Gentle Grip. You feel it now, even as you rest, the pull that keeps you close to Earth. You do not see it, do not hear it, yet it holds you as tenderly as a hand against your back. Gravity, the quietest of forces, surrounds you at every moment. It anchors your steps, keeps the moon circling, steadies oceans in their rise and fall. It is so familiar, so constant, that most of the time you forget it is there at all. And yet, gravity is also the most mysterious. You know how it behaves, but not entirely why. Isaac Newton once described it as a pull between masses, as if invisible strings tied objects together across space. Centuries later, Albert Einstein offered another vision, that gravity is the bending of space and time itself, a fabric curved by matter. You are not dragged by invisible cords. You are moving across a landscape shaped by mass. You imagine that fabric now, spread wide like a sheet of silk. Place a small pebble upon it, and the silk dips only slightly. Place a planet, and the fabric curves deeper. Place a star, and the silk pulls taut under its weight. The path of other objects is guided by these curves, the way a marble rolls toward the center of a valley. Gravity is not a chain but a shaping, not a demand, but an invitation. Here in this stillness, you allow yourself to feel that shaping. Earth curves space beneath you, holding you in its embrace. The moon responds to Earth's curve, circling endlessly, while Earth itself circles the sun, all of them bound in patterns that have lasted for billions of years. What seems like chaos is in truth a choreography. Gravity is the music, and every object dances to its silent rhythm. But what happens when the weight becomes too great? When a star so massive collapses into itself? When its mass no longer spreads gently across the fabric, but tightens into an unseen knot? Then gravity no longer feels gentle. It becomes absolute. That knot is what we call a black hole. Imagine, if you will, placing something unimaginably heavy onto that silk sheet. Not a pebble, not a planet, not even a star, but a weight so dense that the fabric tears downward endlessly. That is gravity concentrated. Not violent in its own right, not malicious, but so intense that even light cannot find a path outward. Light, which normally travels freely, curves inward and vanishes. The horizon becomes an edge beyond which no information can return. And yet, the black hole is still made of the same force that tethers you gently to Earth. Gravity here is not different in kind, only in degree. The hand that steadies your feet is the same hand that folds galaxies into spirals, the same hand that carves horizons from which light cannot escape. One gesture, countless scales. You drift into this thought, and the scale widens around you. Picture the Milky Way, hundreds of billions of stars arranged in sweeping arms. What holds them in their slow dance, preventing them from flying apart? Gravity. At the center of the galaxy, hidden behind veils of dust and stars, lies a supermassive black hole. It is not tearing the galaxy apart, but anchoring it, its pull subtle yet steady, its presence unseen yet essential. Without that concentrated gravity, the Milky Way might never have formed the shape you see when you look up at night. You feel a kinship here. The same gravity that guides galaxies is the one that guides your every step. When you drop a pebble, when you leap, when you breathe and rest against the ground, you are answering the same law. The cosmos and your body share this language. There is no separation. Einstein once wrote that mass tells space how to curve, and space tells mass how to move. You let this idea circle in your mind like a planet tracing its orbit. It means that everything is in relationship. Nothing moves alone. The smallest stone, the largest star, each bends the fabric. Each shapes the motion of others. Gravity is not simply a pull, it is a conversation. And in the black hole, that conversation becomes a chant so deep it cannot be broken. All paths point inward, all directions converge. To imagine falling into such gravity is not to imagine violence, but surrender. You do not hit a wall, you follow the natural bend of space itself. It is like walking downhill and never finding the valley floor. The journey continues, deeper and deeper, until the concept of depth itself dissolves. This thought quiets you, for gravity is not only a scientific truth but also a metaphor for living. Just as you are held to Earth, so too are you held by unseen bonds in life, by connection, by memory, by the weight of your own heart. Sometimes it feels light, sometimes heavy, but always it shapes the path you walk. Gravity, in its many forms, is always there. As you breathe, you notice how your chest rises and falls, how your body rests against the ground. This too is gravity's embrace. You need no effort to remain here. You are supported. You belong to this earth, and it belongs to you. The same force that anchors galaxies anchors you. You imagine now, drifting once more near the horizon of a black hole. Around you, space bends like a river turning inward. The closer you move, the slower time itself appears to stretch. If a friend were watching from far away, they might see you freeze at the edge, your image fading slowly into red. But you, from within, would feel no such pause. You would continue drawn inward by the same gentle law that keeps your body resting here. You let this paradox settle, that from outside the journey looks frozen, yet from inside it flows without interruption. What a reminder that perspective shapes everything. One story seen from afar is another story lived from within. The universe speaks in layers, and gravity is one of its clearest voices. You rest in that voice now. It is not harsh, not hurried. It is patient. It can hold stars for billions of years. It can shape galaxies for ages uncountable. It can keep you resting quietly through the night. The hand of gravity is steady, and in its steadiness, you feel safe. And as you lie within its hold, you begin to wonder, if gravity can curve space and time so profoundly, could it also connect across dimensions you cannot yet see? Could the pull you feel here be only part of a larger embrace, one that stretches into places your mind has not yet wandered? Last lines. And so in gravity's gentle grip, you find yourself asking what other unseen forces weave through the universe. forces as patient and invisible, waiting to reveal their patterns in the unfolding night. Chapter 4: The Horizon You Cannot Cross. You drift once more through the vastness of space, your breath steady, your mind soft as velvet. Ahead of you a shadow waits, not solid, not even visible, but present all the same. You know what it is before you name it. The event horizon, the edge of a black hole, the boundary between what can return and what cannot. It is not a wall. There is no shining surface, no line etched into space. It is simply the point at which paths curve inward so completely that no light, no signal, no step can escape. To stand before it is to stand before inevitability, before the edge of knowledge itself. You let yourself imagine being there, hovering just above that boundary. From this vantage, the universe behaves strangely. Time stretches. To someone far away, watching you approach, your motion slows again, and then nearly stops. They would see you pause at the edge, your image fading into red as light strains to escape the pull. To them, you would never truly cross. But for you, inside this moment, nothing feels broken. You continue forward. Time for you flows as naturally as ever. Seconds pass like breaths, smooth and unbroken. You would cross the horizon without noticing, never sensing the invisible line you have just moved beyond. This paradox hums quietly in your mind. The same boundary, seen from two perspectives, tells two different stories. From the outside, stillness. From the inside, motion. Which is true? Perhaps both. Perhaps the horizon is not just an edge of space, but an edge of perception. You rest in that thought as though it were a mirror held before you. How many horizons in your own life have felt like walls from one angle, but like thresholds from another? How many limits, once crossed, turned out to be invisible lines, noticed only in hindsight? The event horizon becomes a metaphor for every edge you have approached. Moments of change, moments where what lies beyond is unknown, unreturnable, yet still natural to step into. You breathe, letting the idea settle gently. The event horizon is absolute. Nothing returns from within. Not even light, swiftest traveler of all can find its way out. And yet, the horizon itself is not a thing. It is a place where paths bend beyond rescue. A coordinate, not a surface. You cannot touch it. You cannot mark it. It exists only as the point where freedom turns into inevitability. Scientists once imagined black holes as simple, smooth voids, perfectly dark, perfectly featureless. But over time, questions arose. What happens to information, the details of matter that fall inside? Does it vanish, or is it somehow preserved? Stephen Hawking, with quiet persistence, revealed that black holes are not entirely silent. They whisper. Tiny particles escape near the edge, faint as a sigh, a phenomenon now called Hawking radiation. Over unimaginable spans of time, black holes may even evaporate, their mass bleeding away as heat. Even horizons, it seems, are not eternal. You picture this radiation now, faint flickers of energy rising like sparks from the invisible border. They are delicate, almost ghostly, but they remind you that no silence is ever complete. Even at the horizon where everything appears to vanish, there is a kind of message, an echo of presence, a hint that nothing is lost forever, only changed. And as you hover near this boundary, your thoughts slow. You feel how time itself bends here, how clocks would tick differently depending on their nearness to the edge. This bending of time is not an illusion. It is real, measurable, undeniable. Gravity shapes not only space, but the flow of moments. Near the event horizon, time is drawn out like taffy, stretched into something unrecognizable to those far away. You reflect on this gently, sensing the lesson it offers. How often in your own life has time felt different depending on where you stand? A single hour can stretch into eternity when you wait in stillness, or vanish in a heartbeat when you are carried by joy. Time is not uniform in experience, just as it is not uniform in the universe. Gravity bends it there. Memory and feeling bend it here. The event horizon becomes a reminder of perception, of the way limits can both conceal and reveal. To an outside observer, you are frozen at the edge, your story unfinished, your crossing never complete. To yourself, you move forward seamlessly, naturally. Two stories of the same event, both true, both incomplete alone. You breathe in and it feels as though the horizon has become part of you. Not only a place in space, but a way of understanding thresholds in your own life. There are boundaries you cannot return from. A word once spoken, a choice once made, a step once taken. At the time, they may have felt invisible, like walking across air. Only later did you realize a horizon had been crossed. And yet, this does not bring regret. Instead, it brings peace. Horizons are not ends. They are continuations, moments where the path folds into new directions. The black hole does not end matter. It transforms it. The horizon does not halt time. It reshapes it. The unknown is not always a void. Sometimes it is a door. You let this idea rest with you, feeling its weight soften. Looking outward, you notice how light behaves near the horizon. Photons skim the edge, circling, delaying, bending in orbits so precarious that a fraction of a degree decides whether they fall inward or escape outward. This fragile balance creates a sphere of shimmering possibility called the photon sphere. You imagine standing in that region, surrounded by light looping endlessly around you, as though trapped in a hall of mirrors. Here, the universe reflects itself, folding vision into vision until the familiar dissolves. The horizon itself remains unseen, but its effects ripple everywhere. It is the absence that shapes the presence, the silence that defines the song. You begin to feel that you are not simply watching a cosmic phenomenon, but resting in a lesson about edges and transformations. The black hole, the horizon, the bending of time. These are not monsters, but mirrors. And in that mirror, you glimpse yourself, a traveler standing always at some horizon, always on the edge of what is known, looking toward what cannot yet be returned from. It is not frightening. It is the nature of being alive. To live is to cross horizons, to step forward into change, to let go of the certainty of return. You sigh softly, the sound carrying like a ripple in this imagined space. Ahead, the horizon waits, not calling, not pushing, but simply being. It does not need to lure you. Its lesson is already here, that boundaries are not always barriers, that endings are not always ends. And still, questions remain. What truly lies within? Does matter collapse into an infinite point, or does something new emerge, hidden from our view? Could horizons conceal not endings, but beginnings of other universes, other dimensions, folded just beyond reach? The thought is not frightening, but tender, a reminder that mystery is not emptiness, but possibility. You linger with that, letting curiosity mix with calm. Horizons, after all, exist everywhere. The line between night and day, the shore where ocean meets land, the breath where inhale becomes exhale. The event horizon is simply the universe's grandest example, its most profound metaphor. A line you cannot cross twice, but a line that carries you forward nonetheless. You close your eyes and let yourself rest at this threshold. The silence deep, the stillness vast. You need not step through. It is enough to stand here, to imagine, to reflect. For in reflection, the horizon has already given you its gift. And yet, part of you wonders, if the horizon can reshape time and bend perception, what happens deeper inside where even imagination struggles to follow? If this edge is only the beginning, what lies in the heart of the black hole itself? Last lines. And so you linger at the horizon you cannot cross, feeling its silence, its mirror, its lesson, wondering softly what waits in the deeper mystery within, where even thought itself begins to bend. Chapter 5. Time in the Grip of Darkness. Time is the quiet thread you rarely notice until it slips. On Earth, you mark it with clocks, with days and nights, with the turning of seasons. It feels steady, constant, a drumbeat you can rely on. But here, near the shadow of a black hole, time is no longer simple. It stretches, it bends, it folds under the grip of gravity, reshaping itself into something unfamiliar. Imagine drifting closer. You carry a watch on your wrist, its hands ticking gently, steady as breath. To you, the seconds pass in their usual rhythm. Tick, tick, tick. But someone watching from far away, safe in the open field of space, sees something different. They see your seconds slow, your movements drawn out, as if time itself has thickened around you. This is gravitational time dilation, the slowing of time near immense gravity. It is not a trick of perception, it is real. A second near the event horizon may stretch into years, centuries, even longer when compared to the flow of time far away. The universe, it seems, does not hold time as a universal constant. It molds it, bends it, shapes it, depending on where you stand. You let that sink in. Time is not absolute, it is relative. It changes with gravity, it changes with speed, it changes with perspective. And though the idea belongs to physics, it also feels deeply human. For how often in your own life has time behaved strangely? An hour with someone you love passes in a breath. A single minute of waiting and uncertainty stretches like an eternity. Time is not only counted by clocks, it is lived in feeling. You imagine again the scene. Two observers, two truths. To you, drifting near the black hole, nothing feels unusual. Your watch ticks, your heart beats, your thoughts unfold in order. But to the distant observer, you are slowing, as though caught in molasses. The closer you approach the horizon, the slower you appear, until your image nearly freezes, suspended at the edge. From their perspective, you never cross. From yours, you do. Two versions of reality, both correct, both incomplete. This is the strange gift of relativity. It tells you that the universe is not a single perspective, but a tapestry woven of many. Each observer carries their own truth. Each path through space-time writes its own version of time's story. And yet, there is a comfort here. For though time stretches, though it bends, though it flows differently in different places, it always flows. It never stops. Even near the event horizon, where seconds for you stretch into centuries for another, your journey continues. Your story unfolds, moment by moment, unbroken. You reflect on this, letting it mirror your own sense of life. How often have you wished for more time or wondered where time is gone? How often has a single day felt like a lifetime, while years slip past like shadows at dusk? The black hole shows you that such experiences are not illusions. They are echoes of a deeper truth. Time itself is not rigid. It flexes with context, bends with weight, and feels different depending on where and who you are. You breathe into this realization, letting it soften the way you think of your own days. As you linger in this thought, you recall another strange possibility. If you were to travel near a black hole and return, you might find that more time has passed for others than for you. A few hours in your experience could mean decades on Earth. It is not fantasy, it is physics. Gravity bends time so deeply that journeys near black holes could make travelers leap forward into the future of others. You imagine this now, leaving Earth, circling close to the edge of a black hole, then returning. The faces you knew have grown older. Generations may have passed. For you, it was only days. For them, a lifetime. Time itself is no longer shared. This thought brings both awe and tenderness. Time is not evenly distributed, not universally fair. Each life carries its own pace, each experience its own rhythm. Perhaps then it is not about holding on to every moment equally, but about cherishing the rhythm you are given, the tempo your own story unfolds within. Your mind drifts back to the black hole. Here, time's bending is visible in light itself. Beams of light climbing out of the gravity well lose energy, stretched into longer, redder wavelengths, a phenomenon called gravitational redshift. To an observer far away, colors fade, clocks slow, everything appears to move sluggishly. And yet, from within, life feels normal, seconds ticking at their usual pace. Two layers of truth again, overlapping but never merging. You let yourself imagine being suspended near that edge. Around you, stars beyond the horizon seem to race forward, their light compressed, their time accelerated. Whole civilizations might rise and fall while you count only a handful of breaths. To stand here is to feel how small you are within the cosmic flow, and yet also how intimately connected you are to its mysteries. You rest in that paradox, time as both universal and personal, vast and immediate, steady and shifting. Closer still, the idea of singularity hovers. Deep inside the black hole, gravity grows without limit, and time itself may collapse into something beyond your understanding. Does time end there? Or does it become something else entirely, something no observer can describe? You cannot know. No one can. But perhaps not knowing is its own lesson. That mystery, too, is part of time's rhythm. You linger on this edge, letting imagination play. If time can stretch near black holes, perhaps the universe itself experiences different tempos in different places. Perhaps galaxies far away beat to a slower drum or faster. Perhaps the cosmos is a vast symphony of rhythms, overlapping yet never fully aligning. You resting here are one note among countless others, each vibrating at its own pace. And within your own life, you sense the same. There are moments of stillness, moments of acceleration, moments of vanishing. Time is not one steady river, but a shifting current, bending around the gravity of experience. Each memory, each turning point, each threshold creates its own dilation, its own measure of eternity. You close your eyes and feel the pull of gravity again. The weight that bends time here also holds you to Earth, steadies your breath, anchors your body. The same force that warps centuries near a black hole guides the fall of a leaf, the swing of a pendulum, the rise of the tide. It is one thread woven at every scale, and so you rest in the quiet truth. You are always inside time, yet never outside of it. You cannot hold it, cannot keep it, cannot slow it with will, but you can notice it. You can listen to its changing rhythms. You can honor its stretch and its contraction, its pauses and its vanishing. The black hole teaches you this by example. A second here is not a second there. An hour here may be a lifetime there. And yet, for the one who lives it, time always feels whole, always feels complete. You have never known a broken moment. Even when time feels strange, it remains yours. You sigh softly as though your breath itself were a clock, a reminder that every inhale and exhale marks a rhythm uniquely your own. The grip of darkness does not frighten you now. It steadies you. It shows you that time is not a rigid prison, but a pliable companion, shaped by gravity, shaped by perspective, shaped by your own presence within it. And as you drift further into calm, you begin to wonder, if time can bend so profoundly under gravity's hand, what does that mean for the story of the universe itself? Does time have a beginning? Does it have an end? Or does it, like light near a horizon, curve endlessly into shapes you cannot yet imagine? Last lines. And so you rest in time's shifting current, feeling its stretch and its pause, its vanishing and return, wondering softly if the universe itself has its own horizon of time, waiting beyond the reach of your gaze. Chapter 6, The Silent Feast. You drift again toward the blackness, toward the quiet center where gravity gathers everything into stillness. Around you there is motion, not frantic, not chaotic, but steady, patient. Gas and dust stretch into threads, winding into spirals, each curve pulling closer to the unseen horizon. A star too close to safety begins to surrender, its surface pulled outward, unraveling like silk in a slow wind. This is feeding, not with teeth or hunger, not with violence, but with inevitability. A black hole gathers what drifts too near, guiding it inward with gravity's hand. The motion is graceful, as though the universe itself has designed a dance for falling. You picture water swirling into a drain, not crashing, not tearing apart, but circling, circling, each loop smaller than the last. The gas, the dust, even the star follow the same path, orbiting in tightening arcs until their final plunge. This spiral has a name, the accretion disk. It glows with heat, particles colliding in their crowded fall, their friction setting them alight. The black hole itself remains dark, but the feast shines brilliantly, brighter than entire galaxies. You drift along this spiral, letting your thoughts move with it. Each turn slows you, each curve brings you closer, until motion itself feels like rest. Falling here is not sudden but stretched, stretched into endless circling, like a lullaby sung in orbit. There is quiet even in the light. The disk hums, a radiation too vast for your ears, but you sense its presence nonetheless. The glow is not fire in the way you know it, but energy born of compression, of matter giving itself to gravity. The black hole does not chase or demand, it simply waits. Its patience is enough to draw everything in. You notice as you circle that not everything surrenders at once. Some matter is flung outward instead of inward, streaming away in jets that pierce the galaxy with beams of light. These outflows, paradoxical as they seem, are part of the feast. Not all is consumed. Some is transformed, carried outward, shaping the galaxy around it. Even in swallowing, the black hole creates. You let this contradiction settle. Consumption that shines, endings that scatter beginnings, gravity that holds and releases at the same time. The feast is silent, but its echoes stretch across space, marking the black hole's presence for millions of light years. As you drift deeper into this spiral, you realize how gentle it feels. Falling here does not rush you, it slows you. Each orbit softens the next. Each circle brings stillness closer. You sense the lesson in this motion, that surrender does not always mean collapse, that being drawn inward can feel like rest. You breathe with the rhythm, imagining yourself as one of the particles carried in loops that narrow, warm, and dissolve. Your journey is not abrupt. It is patient. You have time to notice every turn, time to feel each curve, time to see the horizon grow nearer with quiet inevitability. The star nearby continues its unraveling, its surface stretching outward, streams of light torn from its body and woven into the disk. To witness it is not to see destruction, but transformation. What once was a sphere of fire becomes a ribbon of brilliance spun across the black hole's gravity. The feast is not a devouring, it is a reshaping. You let your own thoughts stretch with it. What parts of you, drawn inward by the gravity of experience, have unraveled and become something new? What spirals have carried you toward change, not with violence, but with patience? The black hole's quiet feeding becomes a mirror for your own spirals, your own gradual surrenders. You drift closer still, feeling the spiral narrow. The orbits quicken, though to you they feel slower, calmer, as though time itself stretches with each loop. You sense the inevitability of falling inward, yet you do not resist. Resistance has no meaning here. The pull is not harsh. It is steady, gentle, absolute. Closer now, the light of the disk flares, brilliant arcs stretch thin by speed. Photons whip around you, some flung outward, some captured forever. The boundary approaches, the horizon, the line you cannot return from. But still, everything feels like rest. The spiral is lullaby, the glow a lantern. The feast, though consuming, feels like home. You hover in that paradox, letting it hold you. A black hole does not eat with hunger. It does not desire. It does not destroy out of malice. It is simply gravity, concentrated and patient, shaping matter into new forms, guiding it into silence. The feast is not violent because it does not need to be. Gravity does not rush. It waits, and in waiting, everything comes to it. And so you drift with the falling dust, circling slower, circling inward, until you can no longer tell whether you are moving at all. The spiral carries you. You do not need to act. You do not need to hold on. You only need to rest in the motion already set. You realize then that the silent feast is not about endings, but about absorption, about being gathered into something larger, about becoming part of the fabric that shapes the universe. Matter disappears into the horizon, yes, but its gravity remains, its memory woven into the black hole's mass. Nothing is truly lost. Everything contributes to the whole. You sigh softly, the spiral still turning, the light still glowing, the horizon still waiting. And within that sigh, you feel a calm recognition that the spiral itself is enough. The journey inward is not hurried, not frightening, but natural. It is rest disguised as motion. It is silence disguised as brilliance. And as you linger in this quiet fall, you begin to wonder if feeding here is not violent but graceful, then what other transformations, hidden deep within, carry the same unexpected gentleness? Last lines. And so you circle within the silent feast, resting in its spiral, waiting in its glow, wondering softly what secrets are held deeper still in the heart where even spirals vanish into silence. Chapter 7, The Spin of the Abyss. The black hole is not silent in every way. It turns. It spins. It whirls in a motion so profound that space itself follows, dragged along in its current. Not all black holes do this, but many are born with a twist. When the star that collapses carries rotation, it passes that rotation down, like an heirloom of momentum. And so the abyss does not sit in stillness. It becomes a whirlpool, a carousel of gravity, turning endlessly in the dark. You drift closer, and the motion touches you. It is not the wind of air, nor the push of water, but something stranger, the tugging of space-time itself. Imagine reaching out your hand to rest on this turning. You would feel the pull not on your skin, but on your very sense of where and when you are. Space is not still here. Time is not still here. The spin draws them into its dance. Physicists give this name, frame dragging. The black hole's rotation twists space-time around it, like a spoon swirling honey in a jar. Everything nearby is carried along, whether it wishes to be or not. Even light bends to this spin, pulled into arcs that circle the abyss. You imagine yourself within that honey, suspended in its golden turning. You cannot resist the pull. Your path is bent, your motion altered. Yet it does not feel violent. It feels steady, like a tide. The spin carries you as though the abyss were saying, nothing is separate from this dance. The region where this drag becomes unavoidable has a name too, the ergosphere. Just outside the event horizon, the ergosphere is where space-time is tugged so strongly that no object can stand still. You would be forced to rotate with the black hole to join its endless spin. The abyss becomes a partner, pulling everything into its rhythm. And yet, within this region, there is still possibility. Energy can be stolen from the spin, like a skater slowing when another hand reaches out. Jets of matter, beams of radiation, these are born not only from falling, but from spinning. The black hole does not only consume, in its turning, it gives back, flinging energy outward into the cosmos. You let this image unfold, an abyss that spins so fiercely it births light, jets streaking across galaxies, powered by rotation itself. What begins in collapse becomes motion, and what begins in motion becomes creation. Even darkness has cycles of giving. The spin is endless. A black hole can turn at nearly the speed of light, its horizon stretched and flattened by motion, as though the abyss itself has become an ellipse, a whirl. At such speeds, the dance is absolute. Nothing can resist. Everything near must turn with it. And yet, within this strange truth, you hear a softer echo. Your own life also turns, not in circles of gravity, but in cycles of experience. Seasons of growth and rest, days of rushing and pausing, patterns of leaving and returning. You too are spun by forces larger than yourself. You too are carried by cycles you cannot always resist. The spin of the abyss becomes a mirror, reflecting your own spirals. There are times you have resisted the cycles, wishing to stand still when everything turned. But the black hole reminds you, spinning is not punishment. It is rhythm. It is how energy is exchanged, how the universe keeps balance. You breathe into this thought, letting the spin carry you. Around and around the ergosphere swirls. If you tried to stand still, you would still be carried. If you tried to escape, you would feel the drag. But if you join the dance, you would move with ease, flowing with the current rather than against it. You think of rivers, you think of tides, you think of the turning earth beneath your feet. All of them are reminders that motion is the foundation of being. Nothing is ever truly still. Even in sleep, your blood flows, your breath cycles, your cells turn over, life renewing itself in unseen spirals. The abyss, with its cosmic spin, is no different. It is a vast continuation of this truth. Motion creates, motion sustains, motion gives. You imagine standing at the edge of the ergosphere, watching the stars bend in their arcs. Light itself is drawn into curves, forced to circle before escaping outward. The sky becomes a whirl of patterns, spirals within spirals, a cosmic kaleidoscope. To witness it would be dizzying and yet mesmerizing, like watching a galaxy fold into itself, like watching eternity dance in place. Closer you feel the pull in your bones, in your breath, in the rhythm of your thoughts. The spin is no longer separate from you. You are within it. You are part of the whirl, part of the endless turning. And then you notice something deeper. The spin has no beginning, no end. Unlike the life of a star, which flares and fades, the rotation of a black hole can last for billions of years, perhaps longer. It carries on, relentless, until interactions drain it, until the abyss slows to stillness far in the future. Time itself cannot easily unspin what collapse began. You pause here, letting the idea linger. To spin without ceasing is to carry memory. The black hole remembers the star that birthed it, remembers the momentum of its collapse, remembers the turning it inherited. You too carry memory in your cycles, echoes of choices, echoes of moments that continue to shape your motion. You drift, circling, not resisting. The abyss turns and you turn with it, and in that turning, you find rest. Cycles do not need to be broken to bring peace. Sometimes they bring the peace themselves by showing you that endings are simply another curve in the spiral. And as you surrender to this thought, the carousel of gravity continues its endless dance. The abyss is spinning, the stars are circling, and you are within the motion, not separate from it, never separate. Last lines. And as you rest in the whirl of the abyss, you begin to wonder if motion shapes so much, what becomes of time and space when the spin finally slows, when silence replaces the turning? Chapter 8. Echoes of Light and Shadow. A black hole itself offers no glow. It does not shine, does not send out rays or sparks. Its horizon is absolute. No light escapes. And yet, you do not see only silence when you look toward one. Around the dark core, there are arcs, flares, and halos. Light that bends, light that curves, light that carries with it the shape of what cannot otherwise be seen. You drift nearer, and the darkness becomes textured. It is not an empty void, but a shadow wrapped in fire. Around it, matter circles in glowing disks, heated by friction until it blazes brighter than entire galaxies. The light does not come from the black hole itself, but from what falls toward it, spiraling into the feast. The darkness announces itself by the way it is surrounded. And more than this, gravity bends the light. Photons, which normally travel straight, are tugged into curves, their paths bent as though they were ribbons in a current. Some orbit the abyss, circling again and again before escaping outward. To an observer far away, this creates strange illusions, rings of brightness, arcs of glow, ghostly halos around the shadow. These are called Einstein rings and photon spheres, though the names matter less than the image they create. Lanterns at the edge of night. You imagine hovering where this bending is strongest. Light from distant stars streams past you, their beams warped into crescents in rings. You see multiple versions of the same star, reflected around the black hole like echoes in a mirror. One star becomes two, becomes three, becomes a circle of light embracing the dark. It feels like a paradox, but also like a truth. Even the deepest shadow can be outlined by brightness if you look in the right way. Darkness is never whole. It is always touched by light, framed by it, revealed through its absence. You linger in this thought, remembering times when your own life felt heavy with shadow. Yet even then, weren't there glimmers? Small halos around the edge of difficulty, moments of kindness, unexpected laughter, a quiet breath that carried you through. Just as the black hole is seen by its echoes of light, so too are your darkest moments outlined by brightness you might not have noticed until afterward. The bending of light here is not only beauty, it is a way of knowing. For scientists on Earth, these arcs and halos are clues, fingerprints of the invisible. The first direct image of a black hole was not of the hole itself, but of the glowing ring around it, the light bent and shaped by gravity into a fiery crown. The shadow revealed itself only because of what surrounded it. You let this image grow within you, a shadow so complete it cannot be touched, and yet a ring of light so persistent it refuses to let the shadow remain unseen. Darkness becomes visible only because of brightness at its edges. The two are partners, never separate. Drifting closer, you watch the photon sphere, that fragile shell where light orbits again and again, circling before choosing its fate. Some photons fall inward, gone forever. Others break free, carrying their story outward into space. They bring with them a message. There is something here, something unseen, something massive enough to bend the very path of light. It is astonishing to think of light, which moves faster than anything, slowed into circles, trapped into orbits. Yet even here at the brink of darkness, it is not destroyed. It chooses, it lingers, it arcs. In its delay, it paints beauty for others to see. You let this linger too. Light does not always move straight. Sometimes it bends, sometimes it stalls, sometimes it circles before finding its way again. And yet, in bending, it reveals truths that a straight path never could. Perhaps your own detours, your own circling paths, are not wasted time but echoes of light, illuminations only possible because you bent, because you paused, because you wandered before moving on. The halo glows brighter as more matter streams inward, heating, colliding, flaring. To see this from afar is to see fire suspended around a shadow, a lantern burning at the edge of silence. And still within, the black hole itself remains untouched, unseen. It does not glow, but it is outlined, framed by its own echoes, revealed by what it bends and gathers. You think of lanterns in the night, hung at crossroads, their glow not only lighting themselves, but also outlining the shapes of shadows around them. The black hole is like that, a lantern not of its own making, but of the universe's, shining because of the way it bends and pulls. Even the darkest abyss then becomes a teacher of light. You drift farther out now, looking back at the halo. It is beautiful, yes, but also fragile. The ring of light depends on perspective, on alignment, on chance. From another angle, you might not see the halo at all. The lesson is quiet but clear. To see the invisible, you must sometimes stand in the right place at the right time. Vision is not only about eyes, but about alignment. How often, you wonder, have you missed the halo in your own life because you were standing in the wrong place to see it? How often has the shadow seemed absolute when in truth the light was simply bent out of view? The black hole's echoes remind you that perspective matters. To shift your gaze is to uncover brightness where once there was only dark. You close your eyes and breathe into this truth. Even here, where gravity silences light, there are ways to see. Even here, the universe whispers its presence through halos and arcs, through the bending of brightness around shadow. You cannot look directly into the abyss, but you can know it by its echoes. And perhaps this is enough. Perhaps it is more than enough. For in your own life, too, there are mysteries you cannot look into directly, places where darkness seems impenetrable. Yet the edges speak, the outlines whisper, the echoes reveal. To see by what surrounds is not to be blind. It is to practice a different kind of vision. You open your eyes again, and the halo remains, steady in its glow. The black hole's shadow does not diminish it. If anything, the shadow makes the light more vivid, more striking, more impossible to ignore. Shadow gives light its shape. Light gives shadow its meaning. Together they tell the story of the abyss. And as you drift away from the halo, you feel that story still with you. Darkness and brightness, shadow and echo, silence and lantern, none exist alone. Last lines, and so you carry the glow of echoes with you, feeling how even the darkest abyss is outlined by light, wondering softly what stories remain hidden within the very heart of the shadow itself. Chapter 9, Songs of the Merging Giants. Out in the vastness of the cosmos, there are moments of extraordinary meeting. Not sudden, not hurried, but slow and deliberate, like a long embrace unfolding over ages. Two black holes, once distant, once separate, drift closer, drawn by each other's gravity. Their paths curve inward, step by step, orbit by orbit, until they are caught in one another's pull. You imagine watching this unfold across billions of years. At first, the two are like distant dancers circling slowly, each one massive, each one carrying the memory of stars long gone. Their gravity reaches out, tugging gently at first, then more firmly, pulling them into a spiral. The universe waits with patience, for this is not a quick encounter. It is a long dance measured not in minutes or hours but in eons. As they circle, the dance creates music, not music for ears, but for the fabric of space-time itself. Each orbit sends out ripples, gravitational waves, that spread outward like vibrations on a drum. These ripples carry the rhythm of the dance across the cosmos, waves that can pass through galaxies, through clusters, through your own body without pause. You pause here, letting the idea settle. You are listening to the universe sing, not with light, not with sound, but with gravity itself. The song of the merging giants is low, steady, almost imperceptible. And yet, with delicate instruments on Earth, humans have learned to hear it. The detectors stretch for kilometers, their arms attuned to the faintest shifts, capable of noticing when space itself stretches and squeezes by less than the width of a proton. And when they listen, they hear a chirp, a rising tone, the last heartbeat of two black holes as they merge into one. You drift closer in imagination, watching the spiral quicken. At first, the orbits are wide and slow, like waltz steps across a great ballroom. But as time passes, the pull strengthens. They come closer. Their speed increases. The song rises. The gravitational waves higher in pitch, the rhythm quickening. What began as a long, slow dance becomes a crescendo, an accelerating whirl. At the end, the two black holes merge. Their horizons touch and they fuse into one, larger and heavier than either alone. Some of their mass is transformed into pure energy, radiated outward as gravitational waves. In that moment, the universe trembles. For a heartbeat of cosmic time, the power released exceeds that of all the stars and all the galaxies combined. Yet it is silent, invisible, felt only as ripples in space-time. You breathe with this thought. The most powerful events in the universe are not explosions of fire, but vibrations of gravity, a music that plays through the very structure of reality. You wonder what it would feel like to stand inside such a wave. Would you notice your body stretch and squeeze as the ripple passed? In truth, the effect is so small you would never feel it. The waves pass through without resistance, moving everything together so that no single part of you is aware of the change. And yet, the wave has touched you, has carried you in its passing. The song has reached you, even if your body cannot notice. The black holes, now one, settle into silence again. The ripples fade outward, losing strength as they travel. The song that began in a distant corner of the cosmos may take billions of years to reach another place, but still it carries, still it arrives. Across space, the universe continues to hum with these songs, countless ripples from countless dances, a chorus of merging giants. You linger with this chorus. Each wave is a story of stars that lived and died, of collapse, of spirals that tightened across unimaginable time. To hear the waves is to hear history itself, the memories of the cosmos encoded in vibration. And perhaps you think your own life has its echoes too, not in gravity, not in space-time, but in the ways you ripple outward. A kindness given, a word spoken, a silence shared. These two travel farther than you know, shaping lives beyond your own horizon. You may not feel their journey, but others might feel their arrival, far at me. Long after, the black holes remind you nothing is fully contained. Everything ripples outward. You close your eyes and listen to the imagined hum. It is not loud, not dramatic, but steady, patient, like a lullaby sung not for one listener, but for the entire universe. A song without words, yet carrying meaning all the same. You open your eyes again, and the vision continues. The merged black hole spins, carrying forward the motion of its parents, inheriting their momentum. It is larger now, heavier, its horizon stretched, but it is also quieter, its dance complete for now. And yet, there are more. Countless pairs across the cosmos are still circling, still sending ripples outward. The universe is full of dances in progress, full of songs still being sung. You imagine them now all together, a symphony of low, deep tones blending into a cosmic music that never ends. The human instruments on Earth can only hear the loudest and closest of these mergers. But you imagine that if your ears could attune to them all, you would be surrounded by harmony, space itself alive with vibration, a constant chorus of giants merging in the dark. You let that thought soothe you. Even in silence, you are not alone. The universe is always singing. Your mind drifts to the idea of cycles again. Black holes merging, forming larger and larger ones. Galaxies colliding, bringing their central giants together. Growth through union, creation through merging. The story is not one of endings, but of continuities, of patterns repeating on larger and larger scales. And within yourself, too, you sense cycles of merging. Moments where two paths of your life came together into one. Moments where experiences fused and became something larger than either alone. From those mergings, you became heavier, deeper, more complete. The black holes are not distant after all. They are mirrors showing you your own dance of becoming. You breathe into this, and it feels like rest. The song of the merging giants is still carrying outward, still moving across the cosmos, still touching places it has not yet reached. Somewhere long after you are gone, it may pass through another world, another listener, another being who pauses to notice the hum. In that pause, they too may wonder at the beauty of a universe that sings in silence. And so the dance continues long after the dancers themselves have vanished. The ripples carry the memory. The music carries the story. You close your eyes again, hearing it now, not with ears, but with imagination. The long, slow song of giants circling closer, the rising pitch as they spiral inward, the final chirp of union, and the fading hum as the cosmos absorbs their gift. A lullaby in gravity, sung not once but endlessly across time and space. Last lines. And as you rest in the fading echoes of their song, you begin to wonder, if black holes can merge and sing, what other voices might the universe be hiding, waiting for you to hear? Chapter 10. Beyond the horizon of knowing. The journey has carried you far. You have drifted through the quiet pull of gravity, circled the spiral of falling matter, listened to the hum of merging giants. And yet, the closer you come to a black hole's center, the less the universe is willing to reveal. It is as though nature has drawn a curtain across the final act, inviting you to pause at the threshold, but not to cross. You hover now at that unseen boundary, the event horizon. You already know that nothing, not even light, can escape once it has crossed. What lies beyond is concealed, not only from you, but from the very laws of physics as we understand them. For here are equations, those careful tools that have explained planets, atoms, and galaxies, begin to falter. They reach the edge of their strength, and the story slips into silence. And yet, silence does not mean emptiness. It can mean potential, like a blank page waiting for words, like a question waiting for its answer. Black holes in their darkness become symbols of mystery itself. They are reminders that there are places in the universe where curiosity can go, but certainty cannot follow. You breathe into that thought, letting it soften rather than disturb you. For in your own life, too, there are horizons. There are questions you cannot yet answer, choices whose endings you cannot see. Black holes remind you that this is not a failure. It is the nature of existence. To live is to step forward into mystery with trust that the unseen will unfold in its time. Scientists wonder too. They ask what lies beyond the horizon. Some imagine a singularity, a point of infinite density where space and time collapse. Others suggest that the singularity may not be a true point, but a signpost, hinting at new physics we do not yet know. Perhaps the laws of quantum mechanics, the strange rules that govern atoms and particles, find a way to soften the collapse. Perhaps there are bridges, wormholes, connecting black holes to other regions of space. Perhaps, instead of an end, each black hole is a doorway, opening to something else entirely. The truth is, no one knows. And for now, that unknowing is part of the beauty. You let yourself imagine slowly, gently. If you could cross the horizon, what would you see? Would you fall endlessly inward, time stretching into infinity? Would you emerge somewhere new, in another universe, another time, another place? Or would you simply dissolve into silence, your story folded into the deeper story of the cosmos? It is tempting to want certainty, to crave a clear answer, a final map. But the black hole whispers something softer. That mystery itself has value. That questions, when left open, keep wonder alive. That not knowing can be as nourishing as knowing. You recall how when you were a child, you first looked up at the night sky. The stars shone without explanation, and it was that very absence of answers that stirred your imagination. Now, as you think of black holes, you feel that same stir, not fear, but possibility, not an ending, but an invitation. The horizon, then, is not just a boundary, it is a mirror. It reflects your own relationship to the unknown. Just as you cannot see what lies within a black hole, you cannot see far into your own future. And yet, you keep moving, drawn forward by gravity, by curiosity, by hope. Some thinkers suggest that information, every detail of what falls into a black hole, is not truly lost. Perhaps it is encoded in subtle patterns on the horizon itself, like ripples etched into the surface of an invisible ocean. If that is true, then nothing has ever gone completely. The past is woven into the present, even when it seems hidden. You find comfort in that idea. In your own life, too, experiences may vanish from sight. Memories may fade, but perhaps nothing is ever lost. Perhaps every step, every moment leaves a trace woven into the fabric of who you are. The black hole then becomes a teacher of patience. It asks you to accept that some things are beyond reach, at least for now. It asks you to sit in the presence of mystery without rushing to solve it, to feel the vastness of the question itself and let that be enough. You close your eyes, picturing again the dark horizon. The stars curve around it, light bending into strange halos, arcs of brilliance that reveal the outline of the unseen. You realize that the mystery is not hidden far away. It is right here in the very act of perceiving, in the interplay between what you can know and what you cannot. Time seems to slow as you linger in this thought. Each breath is a small horizon. You inhale, and for a moment the air is inside you, unseen. You exhale, and it returns to the world, carrying traces of you outward. The horizon is not distant. It is in every exchange, every threshold, every moment of crossing from known to unknown. The black hole does not answer your questions. It does not tell you whether it is a doorway or a silence or something else entirely. But it does not need to. Its gift is not in the answers it withholds, but in the wonder it inspires. You allow that wonder to settle into you, to soften your mind, to ease you toward rest. The cosmos, vast as it is, still carries mysteries greater than your understanding. And that is not a flaw, but a blessing. For as long as there are horizons, there will be journeys. As long as there are questions, there will be wonder. The night sky stretches out before you once more. Stars scattered, galaxies distant, the quiet hum of merging giants fading into silence. Somewhere beyond your sight, black holes wait, holding their secrets close. And you smile, not because you know, but because you do not. The universe remains unfinished, unfolding, alive with possibilities yet to be named. You breathe deeply, gently. Mystery is not an absence. It is a presence, dark, profound, and full of promise. You rest in that promise, carried by the thought that even in the deepest darkness, there is always more to imagine, always more to ask, always more to seek. Last lines. And so you drift, held not by answers, but by the quiet joy of questions, letting the horizon remain, waiting, like a doorway still unopened.